Member for Don Valley West to continue.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate this government's goal to reduce red tape. If a regulation is unnecessarily burdensome, then we should consider amending or removing it. For example, I am supportive of changes that allow businesses to submit information to the government digitally when possible. But, Speaker, I have to say that I and others on this side of the House still have a lot to learn about the goals and outcomes the government hopes to achieve through this bill. I was very confused upon reading Schedule 2 because while this bill purports to reduce red tape, it may in fact actually add to it. As it stands, Ontario's Crown corporations are able to manage their own real estate. Often they rent space in an office building, as many small and medium-sized organizations do. But if this new legislation is enacted, these Crown corporations will have their real estate authority stripped from them and placed in the hands of the mega Ministry of Infrastructure. For example, today, the EQAO can decide for itself, within its approved budget, where its couple of dozen employees will work. If they need help with that decision, I expect the Ministry of Infrastructure staff would be happy to offer advice. Instead, now, the Ministry will decide. So if I understand correctly, the EQAO will now have to go to the Ministry to say that their lease is up for renewal, and a decision will have to be made by the Minister whether the lease is renewed or they will need to relocate. It seems to me this could in fact add layers to this decision. For example, the employee in the Ministry will consider the issue, go to their superior, who will go to their superior, who will go to the Deputy Minister. Now, because of possible bottlenecking, this decision could actually take longer than it does today. And if there is a bottleneck with approvals and decision-making, I can envision a scenario where the Deputy Minister will have to hire a contractor who may even end up making the same decision the EQAO would have in the first place. So instead, this decision will have taken longer, cost the taxpayers more money, and been done with less transparency. This government does have a clear track record of making decisions without consultation and without being transparent with the voters of Ontario about their rationale. For example, the Strong Mayors legislation, reducing Conservation Authority's ability to protect the environment and invoking the notwithstanding clause, and of course opening up the Greenbelt after saying that they wouldn't. So when I say here today that my constituents have become skeptical about decisions like this one that come from this government, I hope the government will listen and be more transparent about the rationale for this bill. The only explanation provided is that it stems from an Auditor General report. The member from Oakville could not say if the AG has been consulted in advance of this legislation being developed. The Auditor General did indeed recommend that Infrastructure Ontario work with ministries and agencies on how to more efficiently use their real estate. She did not recommend this heavy-handed approach of seizing real estate powers. I am keen to hear more about how this bill will reduce red tape, what the financial business case for this bill is, and what actual dollars and efficiencies the government hopes to achieve. I will also be looking to learn more about whether or not they did consult the Crown corporations affected and the relevant public sector unions that may also be affected to see if this really is the best course of action. Perhaps this is an opportunity to move these organizations to locations that are lower cost but may not help them fulfill their mandate. Speaker, I also have requested a briefing from the Minister of Infrastructure. I'm happy to say I've been told I will be meeting with them next week, and I look forward to learning more about this legislation. I don't really see this legislation as being about red tape. It seems to have a different rationale, and I do hope we get transparency on that. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. So now we'll have questions to the members who just made their presentation together. Member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the members opposite for their comments on the bill. And I want to follow up with the member for Don Valley West about real estate, and I value her commercial experience and perspective on this. I look at as, and your perspective was, look, let the agencies themselves manage the real estate under their mandate. You could equally argue, and I have sympathy for the argument that says, okay, if you're in government, that means there's 14 or more different agencies, all with their own portfolios, all with their own objectives. And that can result in conflicting approaches, inefficiencies, on and on and on. And gathering them together under one ministry undoubtedly who will consult these agencies seems to me a much more efficient and effective way to manage a portfolio. Curious about the members' thoughts on the real estate element of this bill that you mentioned.
Thank you. And to respond, member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question and appreciate his kind words. I certainly do believe that there are times to centralize. So again, at the moment, I'm not particularly saying no to this. I think other members in the official opposition have asked why these 14. I think under the rationale you've just provided, you might say that all 34 agencies should be done this way. And I would just like to really understand the actual specific goals. So, for example, will this save $1 million? Will this save $10 million? And where do those savings come from? So I think, again, I'm open to learning more, and I do hope to learn more from the ministry next week, and I look forward to further debate on this.
Thank you. Next question, the member for St. Catharines.
Thank you, Speaker. To the member from Beaches East York, this legislation creates loopholes to expedite environmental assessments. Now that might be okay, but it comes down to trust. Trust the government will use it properly. Can the member expand on why there might be a lack of trust relating to the government on the environment?
The member for Beaches East York.
Thank you very much. To the member from St. Catharines, beautiful riding, for that very vital and important question about trust with this government on the environmental front. And I'll say my first day here, basically, we had the beautiful throne speech, and climate change was not mentioned once. So, as my Irish Nana would say, start as you mean to go on. And that's how we started here, with trust on the environmental front. And then we have gone to, lucky me, because most of these wild bills have come to my committee, Bill 23, Bill 6, Bill 39, and we have the destruction of the conservation authorities, we have the destruction of the Toronto Green Standards that the Premier actually voted for when he was in support of, when he was working with me at Toronto City Hall back in the day. And also with the destruction of the Toronto Green Standards, we also lose green standards from other municipalities. Many members here would have great green standards in their own municipalities. We've lost that across Ontario. So essentially, we're not starting as we mean to go on. There's a huge lack of trust with this government on the environmental front amongst many Ontarians and many in this chamber. It's unfortunate.
Thank you. Next question. The member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Again, just returning to my friends from the Liberal caucus, I think it is worth thinking about this context of the last 4 years. And we've been asking this question about environmental assessments and the importance of them. We're seeing that Schedule 1 of this particular bill gets rid of that 30-day waiting period. And I'm wondering if you have any examples from your own communities about having that 30-day waiting period could actually add some value in seeing that moving ahead with something may not be in the public's best interest.
The member for Beaches East York.
Thank you to the passionate member from Ottawa Centre, another beautiful area of our province. And there are many examples right across Ontario on how and why we need that 30-day period, and we need to listen to experts. And I think that this has been the problem with some of these bills and what the government hopes to accomplish. And I would say this, with all due respect, we are not the sharpest. We are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. We're not the experts in every single area of expertise. So that is why we rely on experts, such as the Conservation Authority. They have institutional knowledge. They have a wealth of history, long history in protecting this Ontario from flooding and other natural disasters. And so it is up to the government to listen to experts and then formulate proper legislation that respects Ontarians, that respects the environment.
Response?
And that is the end of my answer.
Questions? The member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, apologize. Mr. Speaker, the members opposite keep talking about the environmental assessment. This bill clearly states, and Minister of Infrastructure has covered that in her speech, that the environmental process is not being compromised. And the proposed legislative amendments are minor and will not have any impact on the existing class environmental assessments or environmental protection. What this bill will instead do is, Mr. Speaker, as I said, it will reduce red tape, will optimize office space, and also improve economic growth, and will have tangible savings for the government in the midterm and the long term, and will save taxpayers money. So why are the members opposite against building the infrastructure that people of Ontario need and deserve?
And to reply? Member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, I think, as I stated earlier, at the moment we're not actually speaking out against the bill. We are, of course, in favor of efficiencies where they make sense. I will point out to the member that in the news release, again, from the government, that it mentions that they will, achieve or manage the real estate portfolio more effectively through centralizing authority and decision-making. But I might be mistaken, but I was not able to see those words in the Auditor General's report. So again, I think if we had some transparency around the number of dollars that this bill is planning to save for the taxpayers of Ontario, I think that would be actually great transparency. And I think that would then also tell us exactly where those savings are going to be achieved, and that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question that came from government side. So, Don Valley North. No, sorry. The next question, London North Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to thank the members for their comments about G69. My question, I wanted to return to the Auditor General's report where it was pointed out how Infrastructure Ontario management was deemed ineffective, that there were no standards of performance, no timelines, and even that there were invoices that were non-specific to the location as well as the services that were provided. Is it good business to continually reward organizations that do not have performance standards, do not have timelines, and are unspecific on invoices?
Lots of mistakes. All right. And the response? The member for Don Valley West.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member from London Fanshawe for the question. I would actually say no, that is not good business practice. Of course, I think that was a nice, friendly question over here. So thank you. I think that, again, that's really what, the crux of some of our concern is about this bill, or really questions, I guess, is a better way to say it, because certainly the Auditor General had some strong recommendations for Infrastructure Ontario and how it does its procurement, how it manages its suppliers, and that it's, not getting, that their tenants are not getting the services that they need on a timely basis or perhaps in a cost-efficient way. And so, again, it's curious, and again, like I say, I'm still trying to understand, why this bill is specifically only focusing on, one particular recommendation, which was number 10, where the Ministry of Infrastructure says they will undertake a review of the realty operating model and associated financial model in order to study and implement improvements to the management of government properties, and that they will work closely with Infrastructure Ontario and all ministry tenants to examine different options for effective service delivery in the management of government properties. So again, I would say that is really what the focus should be, as opposed to a recommendation to immediately seize control over these properties. Thank you.
Thank you very much.